Hey everybody, Corey here from Existential Tarot. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you a walkthrough and review of the Ritual Tarot Marked Edition by Tierra May. The Ritual Tarot is an independent deck. I pledged for this deck on Kickstarter, I think in the fall of 2023, and it was in my hands by December. And since I've had this deck, I have absolutely been loving it. I have not been able to put it down. And for my first ever video on YouTube, I thought it would be really neat to just go through this deck card by card as a way of deepening my relationship with the deck, and then also just to share some of my thoughts with all of you in case that's helpful for you in bonding with your deck, or if you're thinking about picking up this deck. And yeah, it has a few changes from the first edition. So this is the second edition, and we'll go through some of the changes. And it's just been a really lovely addition to my collection, and I'm really excited to share it with you. So let's start out by looking at the box here. So it's a two-piece box, has some lovely artwork on it, really easy to open up. Got a guidebook here, which we'll get into. Take the cards out here. We've got this title card that I'm actually put back into the box for now. And let's start out with looking at the backs, because these are one of the biggest changes of this deck in the second edition. So the first edition, the backs are quite different. So as you may already know, the cards are nameless in this deck. So there's no titles on the deck. What Tierra May has done in the second edition is placed the titles on the backs, sort of hidden in plain sight. So the fronts of the cards are left nameless so that you can really lean on your intuition when reading. And then as you're learning the deck and getting used to the cards, if you're, just to reinforce, make sure you know what you're looking at, you can flip the card over and find the name of the card on the back. So it's really done in quite a clever way, because if you're just looking at the backs from afar, you really can't see the titles at all. So for example, if you were doing a spread and you had your cards face down at first, unless you were really trying to find them, you wouldn't get any spoilers, because the titles are quite well hidden on the back. So they've all got this similar design, and then somewhere on the back you can find the title, which has been really nice for me as I've been learning the deck. Now I just have to make sure I put these back in the right order. I'll be honest, when I first saw this deck before backing it on Kickstarter, when I first saw the first edition, the nameless cards were intimidating for me. And I think now that I have this edition and I've been working with it for a little while, I think really for me it was just a matter of working with the deck to squash those worries that I had, because all of the symbols that I know from the system that I know best is the Smith-Waite system, all of the symbols are there. It's just a matter of taking the time to get to know the artwork. And during the learning process, it's been really nice to have those titles on the back. So as an example, we can see on this card, there's a title here, King of Pentacles. So really nice to just give it a flip, look for that title when I haven't been sure exactly what I'm looking for. But I think what I learned through owning the second edition copy of this deck was that I would have been just fine with the first edition had I given it a chance, because the symbolism in this deck is outstanding, and everything is there for you to really, really know what the cards are. So, but at the same time, I love these new backs. They are gorgeous. So overall, I'm happy. But I just thought I would point that out in case perhaps you have a first edition and it's still on your list of decks to get into, and you've been worried about maybe not being able to really interpret the cards as they are nameless. But yeah, I think that as you'll see as we walk through this deck, the symbolism and the depictions of the cards are wonderful. So a quick note about the cardstock, another change from the first edition. So the first edition cardstock was a 350 GSM white core, so a little bit thinner than this one. This is a 410 ultra black core cardstock. So really, really sturdy. It feels like excellent quality. I think because this deck is a little bit on the larger size, actually, let me just compare it to your standard tarot size. So quite a bit larger. And this thickness of cardstock at this size works really well. If this deck was standard size, I think it would be harder to shuffle at the thickness that it is, but for the size of the cards, it seems like a really good production choice, in my opinion. So that was a really nice upgrade. And at the end, I'll do a little shuffle to show you at least how my hands can handle this deck. There's a lot of talk on YouTube around hand sizes for tarot readers. I'm not sure how y'all are measuring your hands, small, medium, large. I don't know what size my hands are. I'm going to say medium. So you can watch a medium-sized handed person shuffle this deck at the end of this video to see how that goes. The cardstock is a little bit slippy. I've noticed that because of the larger size, sometimes I lose my grip on it a little bit, but I think it's a fair trade-off just to have such a nice quality. And the, it's not shiny, but the shinier finish really makes the artwork pop. So let's turn it over. Let's actually look at these cards I've been talking about already for however long. Okay, so we're going to start off with, because this is the first card in the deck, the Fool's Journey. So this is an extra card that's been added to the marked edition version of this deck. So this is a new card that comes before the Fool. And I'm going to take the opportunity with this card just to have a peek in the guidebook, because this is a different card than what I would normally expect to find in a tarot deck. So here's the book. The book is great. It has all of the majors have full color images with pretty nice write-up. And then when we get to the minors, it's more of a keyword situation, but the keywords are good. They have upright and reversed meanings. So shorter for the minors for sure, but that's totally okay for me. And the majors are quite lovely write-ups. So let's have a look at the write-up for the Fool's Journey. So you get your full color image. You get a list of intensifying cards. You get a list of countering cards with some keywords. Both of these have keywords. We have a list of keywords for the card itself. There's a quote to pair with the card, and then a nice chunk here. And then there's also a reversal here. So some of the keywords that are showing up here for the Fool's Journey: Genesis, Source, Evolution, Growth/Decay, Creation/Destruction, the Human Condition, Rites of Passage, Self-Realization, Self-Discovery, Individuation, Psyche, Potentiality, Spiritual Transformation. And then reversed, we have Resistance, Stagnation, Resignation, Aimlessly Drifting. So that gives you an idea of some of the keywords that you'll get as part of the majors. And I'm really love the addition of this Fool's Journey card. I actually recently, at the beginning of January, did a year ahead spread, and within that, for the first time, I wanted to choose a tarot card out of the deck that was going to represent my year, a card that I could follow throughout the year and check back in with. And I was pretty excited about that. And I used the Ritual Tarot to draw that card. And this was the card I got, which I thought was really interesting because it is an extra card in this deck. And it being the Fool's Journey felt really neat because rather than focusing on just one energy, it felt kind of like it's, my focus for this year is the whole fool's journey. And, all those keywords that came up that I read are just really powerful keywords. So that was really exciting. So this extra card is a really sweet addition to the deck. Um, and the imagery is super awesome. And then you'll see the Fool's Journey just tucked in right there amongst some other words and symbols and things like that. Okay, so let's get into some of the other cards. Move this. Okay, so we have the Fool. And you'll see, and I'll point some of it out as we go, not in every card, but you will see some of the symbols of, oh, and right, something that I'll mention too is this isn't just Smith Waite inspired, it's also follows some of the Thoth symbolism. So this is a mixture between RWS and Thoth. And like I mentioned earlier, RWS is my system. I am still very much in my infancy when learning the Thoth. So symbols that I'll be pointing out will be more RWS. If you're a Thoth reader, then I'm sure you'll see those symbols coming through for yourself. But yeah, so with this card, for example, we see the dog that often shows up on the heels of the Fool as they are walking out towards the cliff. And we have that, that pole that the Fool is often holding onto. We have that, the white orchid symbolized here. We have the butterfly. So there's a lot of symbolism packed in these cards. And it's really, like, I think Tierra May, when originally creating this deck, one of the reasons for leaving the titles off the cards were to just allow your intuition to take the wheel a little bit rather than, immediately looking at that title and thinking of the traditional image in your head, which is something that I tend to do because I have a bit of a I think in pictures a lot. So when I read The Fool, I'll think of the original Fool, but I don't with this one as much because I'm just immediately submersed into this different world. And I can pick up on a symbol rather than a word. And I really love that about this deck. Okay. On this, with this much rambling, I'm feeling like this video is going to be too long, so I'm going to try to speed it up a little bit. So here we have the Magician, the High Priestess, the Empress. Obviously, feels very Empress energy. And similarly, Emperor feels very Emperor. Even down to the colors, that almost that barren feeling comes through from the landscape of the original artwork, really. Yeah, we can really feel that here. The Hierophant, super interesting one. Something that I see and I can't seem to unsee in this card are these, the sort of the trunk of this tree coming down looks like a headdress or looks like hair, and I love it. And it took me actually a really long time to see that it actually was a tree and not the person, the figure's hair. But just the way that this collage has been put together, it's all analog collage, so all done by hand. The way that it fits together is really magical. The Lovers. And you will see some of the images are more obvious. So this feels a bit more obvious of a lovers because we have that Adam and Eve, those Adam and Eve figures that really feel lovers-esque compared to something like the Chariot, where if you were a beginner, you might not pick up on it right away. It does have the symbols. It has the crab, the Cancer symbolism. It has, I think this is a Sphinx. So, if you have some very rudimentary art history knowledge, then you'll recognize that as a Sphinx and you can put that together. Just not maybe as obvious as the Lovers, which is totally fine because in this edition, you can just pop it over. And if you're feeling like you just want that extra layer of confidence, you can see there the Chariot. We have Strength. And I am absolutely obsessed with this little, in my mind, it's a hairless cat with two eyes, one on top of each other instead of side by side. And then that third eye is sort of mirrored in the human figure. And even if it's not a cat, to me that's what I read it as, because I'll see cats in everything if possible, because I am a huge cat person. And then we have Lust here. So this is the counterpart to Strength card. So this is definitely more of a Thoth reference. And that is a super beautiful, very gorgeous card. And then we have the Hermit. Very introspective, very cerebral, very hermity. The Wheel of Fortune. It took me a minute to distinguish the difference between the Ace of Pentacles and the Wheel of Fortune. And I think a lot of the times within this deck where I've been confused, and I wouldn't even say confused, but just perhaps mistaken a card for another momentarily, was just me not taking enough time to really look. Because this is, to me now more obviously a dial or a wheel versus a pentacle. And then we've got the figures that are throughout that you would see more so in a Wheel of Fortune depiction. Justice. I love the intensity of this card, that these eyes give me that sort of like all eyes on you accountability feeling. And it's a little bit brutal, to be honest, but I love it. The Hanged One. Death. I imagine this is intentional. It could just be the way my brain is seeing it, but these mountain figures feel like wings, which I really like for the death depiction. For the depiction of death. Temperance. Gorgeous. Every frame is so thoughtful and intentional. The Devil. The Tower. The Tower feels super chaotic, and I love that. The Tower is one of the cards I always get excited to see in a deck that's new to me. And this one did not disappoint. There is so much going on here, and every frame feels like the Tower. The Star. So pretty. The Moon. the sun. So these three cards, thought I would just point out or share with you. I think one of my larger learning curves personally of this deck was distinguishing these three cards. Although now that I've seen these cards several times now, it's super obvious to me that they're the star, the moon, and the sun. But at first, I thought this was the moon. Actually, I think I thought all of them were the moon. so, because the moon energy feels present in all three. But when you look a bit closer, you can really see the symbolism. Like the sun, there's a lot more sun energy and reference in this card if you really look. Um, Similarly, the moon has these pillars, they have the canines, they have, the wisdom, the third eye, like it's more obviously the moon than the other ones. And then this one, by process of elimination, and then the watery energy of that shows up in the star. Um, it definitely makes a lot more sense after having worked with the cards a little bit. But that was one of the trip ups for me, temporary trip ups. And these three cards are probably my favorite three in the whole deck. They are absolutely phenomenal. Like I could just stare at them all day. I love them so much. And then we have Judgment. We have the World. And those are the majors. Okay, so over to the minors. So minors feel, you know, and I'm sort of speaking from the perspective of someone that's new to this deck and still getting to learn it, getting to know it. The minors feel quite easy, I would say, to identify because they have the number, the number of wands, for example, in each card. So ace, two. So these ones feel very accessible for sure. So we have the ace of wands, two of wands, three, the four of wands, the five, the six of wands, the seven of wands. And although some of the cards do take a slight departure from traditional imagery, like it's certainly not a clone of any kind. Some of the artwork, you can see it. This does feel like a seven of wands. There is that sort of defense stance with the wands sort of coming up that way. So there's nods absolutely to RWS, and I imagine there are similar nods to Thoth. Eight of Wands, Nine of Wands, there's something in this that this figure having almost like a kingdom in their hair or wearing a kingdom as a helmet, and the Nine of Wands that really feels powerful. Ten of Wands, and now we're on to the courts, which are Princess, Knight, King, Queen. So we have Princess, that right? Or is it Prince? No, it is Knight. Knight of Wands. So in the Knights, you'll always see a horse. So that makes it easy to identify the Knights. Queen of Wands. And King. So just a quick look at the courts and being able to tell those. Again, we have the titles on the back, but sometimes it's nice to not have to lean on the titles. So the Queen and the King, I find, are somewhat gendered. So it's pretty easy to tell queens from kings. The Knight is easy to tell because it will always have that horse. And the Princess, occasionally, I think it takes me a second to really just think about the imagery for a moment and whether or not a card that's showing up as a princess or a queen, because not all princesses have more of that feminine gender representation. Some of them do. So at first, I think took me a second, but now that I've seen all of the princesses, all the queens, all the kings, it feels pretty easy to tell the difference. The queen seems to, has a bit more of a regal, powerful image, in my opinion. And the princess often looks like a little bit of a younger figure. So that's helped me in telling the difference between all of the courts. And that feels true for all of the suits. Okay, now we're on to the cups. We have the ace, the 2 of cups, the 3, the 4 of cups, the 5 of cups, the 6 of cups, the 7, the 8 of cups, the 9, the 10 of cups, the princess, the knight, the queen, and the king of cups. Okay, so into the swords. Ace of swords. Swords are often my favorite suit. So outside of the tower and the hermit from the majors, the swords are often the first suit I'm excited to check out. I'm a bit of I would say, an airier person. Think a lot, overthink a lot. I'm in my head a lot. So the suit of swords resonates a lot for me, and I tend to pull a lot of swords in personal readings. And this suit of swords really hits home for me. Like it resonates. This is a good example of it. This figure holding a sword, this is, the 3 of swords, and in a sense causing their own 3 of swords pain. And how I think often about the Three of Swords is the type of agony that we can get from our thoughts as we navigate heartbreak or really challenging situations, like how we can almost ruminate and make it a lot harder for ourselves and maybe it needs to be. That resonates for me anyway. Also, if there's a bunch of noise right now, there's a garbage truck outside emptying a dumpster. So sorry about that. It'll go away soon. We have the Four of Swords, the Five, this figure, what it makes me think of is they've won, they've got all the swords, but this like sparkly tear that drops. I feel that. I don't know exactly what I'm feeling when I notice that, but it's like that, winning it but at what cost? It's like you've got it all now, but you're alone and you're sad. So I feel that comes through well here. Six of Swords, Seven of Swords, Eight of Swords, again, similar to the Three of Swords, or similar for me, is it looks like this person is holding a blade up against their own back. So just a really strong depiction of that idea of feeling trapped on your own accord, or like being able to release yourself of this pain or whatever it is that you're feeling stuck or trapped in. It's just a matter of loosening the grip of your own blade. That's pretty powerful. Like that a lot. Of course, these are my interpretations, not referring to the guidebook at all. That might not be the intention, but that's what comes through for me. The Nine of Swords, Ten of Swords, Princess, Knight, Queen, and King. Okay, so last suit up here, Pentacles, the Ace, Two of Pentacles, the Three, the Four of Pentacles, the Five, Six, Seven of Pentacles, the Eight, the Nine of Pentacles. And can we just take a moment to appreciate how flippin' cute this little baby unicorn is, or whatever this being is? I love that for the Nine of Pentacles. That's the kind of Nine of Pentacles energy I want in my life. Cute little baby unicorn. So sweet. And the 10. something that I noticed with the Ten of Pentacles is this, what looks to me like ruin back here. And for the Ten of Pentacles, and just thinking about, I guess what comes through for me is the idea of leaving behind, or maybe an invitation to leave behind generational legacies that you don't want to bring forward with you. That resonates for me in my life. And I feel that here. Like it doesn't, yeah, it feels desolate. And I really love that. Whether that was the intention behind it or not, I like it a lot. And then we have the Princess, the Knight, the Queen, and the King of Pentacles. And that is that. So let's give it a shuffle so you can see how my medium-sized hands shuffle this deck. So I'm a riffle shuffler through and through. I prefer not to have to overhand shuffle, or at least exclusively overhand shuffle my decks. I will if I have to, but I really value being able to get a good riffle in. So there's a couple of ways that I riffle. So this is the, the way I normally would, which for me with this deck, at least until it's broken in, isn't the most comfortable shuffle. I can do it, but it hurts a little bit, to be honest. I don't think my hands are the strongest. They're fine. But what I do find is that this alternative way of riffling, which I think I learned from Ethany's channel, and I use it to shuffle my larger decks that I can't get a good grip on, is corner to corner like this. And that gives it a really nice blended shuffle. So it passes the riffle test, even though I have to riffle it corner to corner. I really don't mind that. There's quite a few decks I have where I have to do that. I find that with cardstock that's a little bit more stiff, or a larger cardstock, this is just how I have to do it. So I've seen other people riffle shuffle this, this way without much trouble. So this is really just, my own hands, not loving it to shuffle it this way just yet. I think once it breaks in more, it'll be amazing, because the cardstock is just so lovely. So that's it. So thank you so much for watching this. I have really enjoyed going through this. This is something that I think I'll really enjoy doing a lot on my channel, doing walkthroughs. I would love to do some first impressions as I get some decks in. I really like this idea of going through card for card, talking about it a bit as a way of bonding with the deck, and then also just sharing with all of you, because that's also super fun. And this is a brand new channel. This is my first video, so hopefully you'll be seeing some more content from me in the coming weeks and months. If you're interested in following along on my journey, please subscribe, and I hope that you all have a lovely rest of your day. Thank you so much for being here. Bye.